We are entering what I believe is the final phase of Kali Yuga, when every institution is being massively and suddenly destabilized. And we see that obviously in the geopolitical realm, where the U.S. economy has just been totally destabilized and possibly destroyed by a single master stroke, and that this is causing global instability and a global trade war. And such phenomena generally are the immediate precedent events before a hot war, which is also something that several of which are already underway and more threatened immediately. So we're in a situation where at every fractal level, there's a destabilizing force, if you will. And it's built into the play that we are all actors in within the field of the phenomenal plane, and that we are co-producing. And what we see in this destabilization of consciousness itself is the destabilization of the ego's modes of discourse. The ego is enmeshed, as we know from our own inner efforts to get unenmeshed. It is enmeshed in the jouissance of the signifier. Swati, write that on the board. I think that's an important phrase, the jouissance of the signifier, if you don't mind. Thank you. Why? Because if you have been doing the practice of Atma Vichara, the practice taught by Sri Ramana, and that has been the most ancient path to self-realization, if you've attempted using whatever methods or techniques to silence the mind, you will know that it's very difficult to give up the addiction to thinking. Is there anyone who has given up the addiction to thinking completely? And it's not a matter of voluntary thinking. It's a matter of automatic thinking. That's the rub for the ego. It's not the master of its own mind. At least the conscious level of the ego is not the master. There's a sensor and a subconscious that it has no control over, nor a superconscious understanding or access or barrier. And so all of these levels are bleeding into each other now, and creating eruptions, not just of sometimes alien thoughts or strange or unusual thoughts or incoherent thoughts or thoughts that seem to have been picked up and come from another thought stream. There are many people who are having the experience of thoughts that create perplexity, and of inner conflicts between different subpersonalities or voices within the conscious or subconscious, or superego images, or infantile self-images, etc. And repetitions of old patterns that one thought one had outgrown or dropped long ago. Negredo that one wasn't even aware could possibly have been there. that suddenly erupts and puts one into some kind of agony or anxiety. And conflicting drives. It's not just thoughts. It's impulses, urges, and paralysis of the will, and emotional uprisings that are not voluntary, but one is subject to these forces in one's own mind, and yet they are one's own mind, but one has not claimed ownership of that mind. One is still identified with an artifact of identification within the mind, and thus one is rocked by the mind's various conflicting forces, rather than to be the one who is outside of those forces and able to silence them and shift their trajectory and unify conflicts and integrate seeming contradictions. And so the practice of Sat Yoga is more important than ever because the ego is less stable than ever, less in control, and more alienated from the external aspect of the dream, which is still its own objective consciousness, but also from its own internal structure and dynamics. And so this inability to let go of the egoic perspective and egocentric modes of behavior and of thinking, even though one's intellect is aware that it's false and that it's something one should have outgrown, it's vulgar, it's uncontrolled, it's irrational, it's infantile, it's whatever, but it's still there. It's tenacious. These sanskaras will only let go when one has dropped the identification with the ego as a whole. You can't try to improve it from within its domain. You can try, but you also will probably not be able to be consistent in that because the ego itself will divert your attention. And this, of course, can create a sense of hopelessness on the path. And we want to avoid that as well. So we have to awaken our intellects to such a level that they do not fall asleep again. They do not get deceived or duped and believe that the ego's thoughts and feelings and needs and demands and desires are all legitimate, or even its own. And to be able to recognize that what is arising in the ego is, or from the ego, is programmed and is a kind of artificial intelligence that has usurped one's consciousness. This, of course, is what the next retreat is about, so I don't want to go too much into it tonight because, in any case, we're all veterans of this internal war, and yet, for most, it has not yet been won. It's an unfinished project that will now require, if you do want to finish it, a much higher level of determination, of willingness to sacrifice, of willingness to get up right away every time you've been thrown off the horse of tapas, every time you have fallen back into some old noxious pattern, to immediately return to Atma Vichara without self-attack or a feeling of loss of faith or hope or desire to achieve your ultimate potentiality in the knowledge of God, in the union with God, in the sacred opportunity to realize the presence of God as the self.